Welcome to Pricing College with your hosts, Joanna Wells
and Aidan Campbell.
Okay, so today I'd like to talk about a business that I really respect for many reasons, and it's called Haigh's Chocolate. Haigh's Chocolate is a competitor to Lindt. Everyone knows Lindt. You may have heard of Haigh. Now that's a conscious decision on their part and their business strategy. So today I just wanted to go through their business strategy, their pricing, their distribution, because I think, a lot of consumer goods, fast moving consumer goods even, can all learn from Haigh and what they've done, especially in terms of their choices to work with or not Coles and Woolworths.
Yeah, I think, in many walks of life, pricing managers, their role is to go in, have a procurement meeting with someone whose job is to, push them down in price, make them feel bad sometimes, and get the product or services at a lower price. There's an old saying in any negotiation that the person who has the hand or the power in that relationship is the one who's prepared to walk away. The issue in many cases when dealing with procurement is that they know that you cannot walk away. Whether you're a major corporation such as Unilever, Palmolive, someone like that, you still need to distribute your product and service. And of course, that applies also to chocolates. If you're trying to sell chocolates in Australia, clearly through the major retailers, Coles, Woolworths, IGA, those sort of companies, that's how you get seen by the most people.
But because of that, a lot of businesses get overlooked because maybe the supermarket retailers think they're too small, their stuff won't be popular enough, or they don't think that they should get the prime shelf space that maybe other bigger suppliers should get because they're known brands that they know people like, so they don't give the smaller ones a chance. But really, what has Haigh shown us about their strategy? Well, they decided that they were going to go a different route, that they weren't going to be distributed through Coles and Woolworths, and they were going to own their distribution themselves. So what was their business strategy from doing that? They obviously weren't going for a market share approach, but I think their business strategy just wasn't simply thinking about market share and margin. I think they were thinking deeper than that. They were thinking about the value to their customers, what they represented as a brand, and how they could best do that on their own. Because as Aidan was saying, they knew if they went through Coles and Woolies, they'd be mass market. And then from there, they'd be forced to promote. And ongoing promotions can destroy a brand. And they were very clear in their mind that they wanted to be a high value, premium chocolate that everybody could afford. So how did they do that with their pricing? We'll go on to that next.
One of the things, speaking of promotions, one thing when I'm in Coles or Woolworths, I'll often notice how chocolate, and you have the major brands in the Aussie supermarkets, Lindt seems to be certainly the biggest component. And then secondly, you'll have people like Green and Blacks who at one point in time were seen as a premium product, but the discounting, it's almost predictable. Every month or two, there will be huge discounts, which will drive sales during that period. And then I'll assume sales will drop off slightly. And what I ask is, what does that do to the brand image, the value of the brand, and also the profitability of that company? By going direct, it completely changes the game, and it gives you complete control over your distribution. Obviously, you're taking on the capital expense of maintaining stores, etc. And say, for example, in Sydney, Haigh stores, you've got prestigious locations such as the QVB building. And with that, a prestigious location, nice packaging, it creates very much a high value image and offer.
And on that, when I saw Green and Blacks, they're discounted and promoted quite regularly. What happens then is that customers realise that they pantry load, they can anticipate the next promotion, and that devalues the brand, the price point overall. The retail price point then gets lowered, and then you promote again. It's sort of a vicious cycle. But also what I've noticed is that Green and Black's shelf space over the years has got smaller, as it's probably been through some tough negotiations with Coles and Woolworths, and from that they derange, and they just give them a smaller shelf space, and they actually have put Green and Blacks higher up, so not in the prime location, not the middle shelf where everyone can see. Where they've replaced Green and Blacks with sort of Lindt, who's obviously agreed across the board to promote everything. Like got so many different varieties of Lindt now and a very small space for green and black. So you can see that Lindt is accommodating that mass market share approach. But for how long? Because equally, just like Haigh, Lindt was supposed to be premium. But what's happening with promotions now is A, people don't trust the promotions, and B, are people thinking, well, you know what, is it really premium or is it just a standard milky chocolate? So it's lowered the benchmark, I think, for Lindt.
You know, I'll ask you this yourself. If you received a box of chocolates as a gift, you know, for a birthday or an anniversary, etc., and nicely packaged in Australia, obviously people overseas may not know these brands, but there'll be equivalents in your country as well, I assume. So if you received a nicely packaged box of Haigh's chocolates versus a supermarket bought major brand, you know, the impression that you receive will be very different. And people will, you know, perhaps the response will be different also. So it's you're creating with something like chocolate. It's very much there's a feeling to it. There's more than just the actual product. There's the feeling, the image, the luxury aspect. Hence, people package them up. They put them in fancy bows all around them, etc. Almost like a Christmas present. So there's the paraphernalia that associates the product. And when you stack those in supermarket shelves, you know, you shouldn't be surprised that the impression decreases as well as because sometimes the buying experience is also important.
Yeah, so in terms of that, what have Lindt done? I mean, they've got that the value proposition is to provide, you know, high quality chocolate to as many people as they can. But so what it's done is owned its distribution and really thought carefully about, like, do we really want to be mass market? I think they've decided, no, like, let's think about it. In Victoria, more people would know about Haigh's and in Adelaide than they do, say, in Sydney. The brand awareness for Haigh's is not as high here, and that's something they're fine with. Also, they've gone into, like, thinking about what their value proposition is. They're sort of a very family orientated brand. So they've opened up their site to the public to visit their chocolate making factories, and they've put a story behind it. They've shown the family history. They've given that sort of provenance and credence to it to just build that image, and it's an authentic one too. And in terms of pricing, what they've done, it's their price points range from, you know, about $15 to maximum $100 when looking at the store. So yeah, you can go as extravagant as you want and get that $100 box with all the bows and all the whistles, all the different assortments and truffles, or you can go smaller. But what they've done is they didn't want people that couldn't afford the premium chocolate to have anything less than premium. So they decided to go with a unit sort of weight-based pricing metric. So if you can't afford, you know, the $100 big box of truffles, you can still afford, you know, the smaller box, maybe one or two of the same truffles, but just, you know, obviously less of them. But overall, everyone can still afford it. So, you know, whether that's right or wrong, there's other things they can do, which they have. They have a great online website now that you can order customized boxes and things like that, which is great during COVID. They've seen sales increase in chocolates through that. So they've always thought well ahead about online, securing their distribution, thinking carefully about their customer segments, their price segments. So they've done a lot of things right.
You know, it's interesting to point there about the online sales, because one thing I was conscious of is that through COVID, you know, these prestigious distribution stores that Haigh's does operate will be under a lot of pressure. The footfall in those areas will be massively reduced, and many of them wouldn't have qualified as essential services or essential distribution. So without the online aspect there, they would have been in, you know, sales would have been under pressure. One thing I would say is we're not proposing this mechanism for every company, every retailer, because fundamentally, every product is different, every customer base is different. The idea about chocolate is it's a prestige product, it's a luxury product. It's not something you buy, at least something not everybody buys every day, and it's often bought for a third party, for somebody else. So it's that luxury aspect, you know, that doesn't apply to other things. You can't do this for tins of peas and tins of beans, etc. So we have to bear that in mind. But I'll give you another example. I used to work in a previous existence, and we were visiting a chicken, an egg farm. And I was there 1 year, and the number of eggs was a huge number of eggs and a huge number of employees. I went back a year later, and there was a tenth the number of employees, and it seemed like the business was in big trouble. Talked to the owner. He had said what they decided to do was to really go up market, organic, free range eggs, much higher quality welfare for the animals, and that required much fewer people. What they told me was sales were down, but profits were through the roof. So really, if you look at what you're doing, oftentimes sales revenue and profitability, they don't always go in the same direction, and what drives one doesn't drive the other.
And I was reading recently about Nestle and their Kitkat brands, and they've done something similar to Haigh because they've had some, let's say, heated negotiation price discussions with the major supermarkets. And they are trying to find different ways to deal with that, thinking about distribution, thinking about product innovation and pricing. And one thing like Haigh's that they've done is open up a Kitkat prestigious premium sort of Kitkat store. Now I know Lindt has done that. Kitkat, who isn't considered to be in line with, Lindt or Haigh, have decided to do that. Haigh have done that, have been doing that for years, and all three are doing it for what? Yes, price positioning, brand positioning. But Nestle's come out and said they want to do it for, future product innovation and price positioning as well. So they want to see and get more connected with their customers, see what type of chocolate combinations their customers like, and then, sell it to them. So give customers what they want rather than just simply guessing and then giving them, the old school sort of Kitkat that everyone's used to, that they know is year on year sort of decreasing in people's tastes have changed. People are not buying it as much. And this is actually happening quite a lot in FMCG across the board, whether it's peas, whether it's chips, whether it's chocolate. You've got to protect your brands, not just by pricing, but also by thinking ahead in the future and then aligning your price to changing markets, whether that's online, whether that's distribution, whether that's product innovation, and getting that together, but only by looking at the market and segmentation of your customers and your prices.
I have nothing more really to add to this one today. All I'll say is for any family members who are intending to buy me chocolates or presents, just bear in mind that I am picky and choosy, and I will, I'll put my nose up at the wrong product. So have a great day.
Well, all right. So it's Haigh's all the way. Well done, Haigh. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.